FEAR stands for false evidence appearing real. And today, we're going to talk about how to overcome fear. But first, in order to overcome fear, we must acknowledge what fear is down to its core. This is the Wanna Be Mindful podcast. I'm here with Jared. How you doing, Jared?
Doing well, Sean. Feeling fantastic.
That's lovely to
How are you
hear.
feeling?
I'm feeling great, and I'm
Lovely.
feeling good, and I'm feeling just right.
Yeah. Feeling fearful at all?
A little bit.
Why?
We'll get into that.
Okay. Well, all right. Let's go right into fear. So, fear, what is it? And
What is
we
it doing? Get it out of my face.
get it out of my face. Fear.
Butter
We don't
sausage.
want it. We don't want it over here. So, fear, what is it? At the very bland root of it, the surface level thought of fear is like an unpleasant emotion that comes to us based off, something threatening to us or something that just doesn't feel right. It's something deeply rooted into us that um, most of the time we don't even understand why it happens. We don't understand how it comes about. And that's what we want to talk about today. We want to deeply dive into it because it's something that goes a lot deeper than what we initially think, and it's something that pertains to every human on this earth. It pertains to animals as well, but it pertains to everybody on this earth, and that's why we want to talk about it today.
Absolutely. There's two types of fear. There's probably more, but
Okay.
for what I know, there's two. There's fear that is instilled in us to keep us alive, our survival. It's in our DNA. It keeps us from dying, basically.
The
That's
survival mechanism.
that's the animal fear, the animalistic fear that we have inside of
Hmm.
our bodies. And then there's fear that stops us from doing things because of our values and our identity and how we've grown up and who we decide we are and who we chose to be. Like, for example, going up to a girl and asking for her number, a girl that you like. And you might have a huge fear of doing that because of so many things of your identity, of being rejected, of what she thinks about you. She might not like you. All these things, all these little things in your brain, false evidence appearing real,
Hmm.
stopping you from just going up to her and asking for that number. That's just one example, but there's many more in like making business decisions,
Well, it's
making
like even that example that you were talking about with going up and talking to a girl, that doesn't just come about all of a sudden. It's something that's built up over time. You could have gotten in your head long before that it's difficult. She could reject you. You could come out feeling embarrassed of a moment that everybody knows that you got rejected or some sort. You think of the worst possibilities, and so that's ingrained in your mind, and it's just something that could happen. It's something that essentially is just rooted in you, and it's you've grown accustomed to that, and so that's why it can be so difficult. And that's something you can change over time. It takes practice, but yeah, you keep going. I just wanted to talk a little bit more detail about
absolutely,
it.
of course, no problem. Yeah, business decisions, honestly, just like examples of fear that have just been instilled in us from society, from what societies gave us while we've grown up. Our parents, movies, shows, just information that we've received. So another one could be like a fear of bears. So there's a bear, 600-pound bear in the woods. It's a grizzly, and you could be in the woods and
Scary.
you see this bear and you're like 10 feet away from it. And if you're in this situation and everything you know about bears, you would probably be so scared and so fearful. And the reason you are that fearful and so scared is because you've grown up watching bears eat people, bear attacks, like real life stories of people surviving, getting mauled, the history of humans and bears being hunted, and just a movie out there that just shows you like Cocaine Bear, just
Mm-hmm. Or
ravenous,
the Revenant.
or the Revenant, ravenous, scary, savage creatures that just don't care if you're alive or dead. They're gonna eat you. You are food. And if you're standing in the woods with that bear, he's not fearful of you. I mean, sometimes you could scare bears, but that fear came from all that society has given you, and the identity that you associate with all those values, all that information that's been deeply rooted into your subconscious. That's where that fear comes from, you know. But in reality, if you never learned what bears are, you never saw a bear, you didn't have the internet, and you have no idea that that creature even existed, and you get planted next to one, you might not even have fear of that.
Or
So,
you're Steve Irwin.
right, RIP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or you're Steve Irwin and you think, oh, wow. You actually get excited. It's a fascinating creature, and he hasn't seen a grizzly in years. He could really relish and be happy in that moment. And so
Because
it,
of
it
what he chose to identify himself as,
mhm.
and the values.
And so it varies person to person on what the fear is. And if one person has fear in something and another doesn't, then that means that all fears, or most fears, can just be obliterated. It could be taken out of your circulatory system. Your out of your brain. It's just poof, gone.
Yeah.
So it varies person to person, and if and at the root of it, like at the root of what we're saying, that fear comes down to is it's deep into your so deep into your identities that you can be fearful of change. You fear those identities changing into something else, and you fear losing yourself, essentially. You fear not being the person that you are, and that's kind of on the topic of death. Basically, that's what it can come down to, and people think of when you lose yourself, when you lose your name, when you lose this body, like, and you think of death. And so fear can go down to a lot of nuances that we don't even think about. It can go down an avenue that could be so deeply rooted into us. All these different identities that are so deeply rooted into us that we don't even realize sometimes that it can be so difficult to change.
That's right. Fear is like a bamboo plant on top of your brain that just grows its stems deep, its roots deep inside, and deep, 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 bamboo plants.
Mm,
And to get rid of that fear, you have to dig deep and unroot it from the very cause. And that is very difficult. Change is difficult. It's not easy, especially the longer that you have been rooted with this identity that holds that fear,
mhm,
the longer it might take to unroot it. And let me give an example. Take a scientist and a religious man, right? Scientist grows up his whole life, learning the science. He went to school. He's a smart man. He has theories. He believes in straight science. And if he has somebody that challenges one of his theories, or some says that we aren't living in space, or we're not even on a planet Earth, or something crazy, the scientist is of course going to disagree with that, because if he was to allow anything that challenged his theories, and that he wouldn't, he would disagree with it, because he has a fear of being wrong. Because for so long, for let's say 40 years of this man's life, he has science to back up his theories, all this
mhm. He
information that
wants to be known as a good
wants
scientist.
to be known. Yep. And now he's challenged with something that contradicts that. He's going to be fearful to even accept any such possibility, because of being wrong. That fear of being wrong is so rooted down in him. And the same goes for a religious person. No matter what religion it is, a religious person is going to fear anything that contradicts their religion.
Mhm.
So
Eh,
that's the identity part of fear.
Yeah. And if you think about it, what do you identify as? You know, you identify as a human. Probably anybody listening to this identifies as a human. So anything that challenges that is going to be thought provoking. You're going to be like, no, like I'm obviously human. You're told that from a very young age. So anything that contradicts that, you're going to be fearful of, because then you're thinking of, oh, if I'm not a human, then what am I? You know, I'm a I'm a male. You know, anything that contradicts you being a male, because that's so deeply rooted to you, then you're going to be fearful of that. And it could be something more basic, like essentially like a good scientist, like you said, or a good Christian or Muslim. If you're if you identify as that, then you're going to be fearful of anything that contradicts that, and you're going to work to maintain that identity. You're going to work towards staying the same way and upholding what you believe in, because that's all you know. That's so deeply rooted into you. So you can ask yourself these questions like, what do I identify as? And you can pretty much think of the fears that comes along with it. You can think of the fears that comes along with your different religions, with how you view yourself and how you view the world and how you go about things. So ask yourself these questions. That's that's what it's about.
Because the reality is, folks, that you're a human, right? But that's just what you've been told. That's a word. Human is a word. Being. We don't really know.
We made that up.
We made that up. We created that. So how do you know for sure what you actually are? You know, deep down, what are you? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
sure, you can say, you can tell me your name and that's who you are, but that's just a name. That's, that's not your
Because
essence.
yeah, if you're born, you're given a name, and you start walking about life. You're taught things by other humans. You're taught how to write and read and learn. You're taught all these things, and what is the status quo and what's normal and what you should be doing. And so if all these are brought up out of outside sources, then once you actually get to the part of your life where you can ask yourself these questions and realize it, like, what are you essentially at the end of the day? What really are you? Because you're told all this stuff, you're told all of it from outside sources, but at the root, like, what are you really? That's a deep, profound question.
I have no fucking clue. That's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all, I mean, here we are, we're experiencing this reality. So we're energy. Well, that's just what I've been told by scientists.
Mm-hmm.
So got to take everything with a grand open mind,
Mm-hmm.
because this is a crazy experience that we're all experiencing. And
Because yeah, you could be closing yourself off. You closing yourself off from different knowledge, different insights, and real happiness as well.
mhm, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to have an open mind. You can say you have an open mind,
Mm-hmm.
but if you have deep rooted beliefs and values that challenge what you're trying to do, I mean, then that's fear. That's fear of
Uh-huh.
letting go of that
Yeah.
belief because it's been so long inside of you. And the fact that fear is I lost my train of thought. Go
That's
ahead.
all right. If fear is false evidence appearing real.
I was gonna say how you might be skeptical over some things. Let's say somebody tells you a crazy conspiracy theory
Mm-hmm.
and you're skeptical as hell over it. Like, I don't believe that at all. I mean, you should be skeptical on your own skepticism because, why are you skeptical? That's just your beliefs, your values, your identity from what you've grown up to who you are now at this point. That's why you're skeptical. So at the root of it, you should question your own skepticism. Why am I
Mm-hmm.
skeptical about this? That's the essence of fear. That's where it comes down to. It comes down to the very root. That it's so deep. It's so deep in your subconscious. But good news, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You can unroot it. You can unroot it from your brain
Mm-hmm.
and eliminate that fear if you choose to do so.
Mm-hmm. Because if you like judge somebody else for thinking a certain belief, then a lot of the times you have to look back and look at yourself and think of your identity and what you identify as, and you could see why that you feel that certain way. So that can go with religion. Other religions can be in constant feuds, or certain policies and politics that are discussed. You could really hate somebody else's point of view, and if you think about it, why are you two like that? Why do you have these beliefs on a certain topic in politics? It's because of the way you identify as, what you think is right and wrong. And it's so deeply
It's
rooted
so
to each
deep.
side, and that's why it's a big topic all the time. That's why there's constant fights about it, because it's challenging people's identities and beliefs on the world, and it can be scary to them to think that people think a different way. And so when somebody challenges that, really provokes them, really makes them think, and just push for their identity to remain, to stay the same, and for other people to think that way as well, because they think that is the truth.
Yeah. What makes a wise man wise is that he understands that he knows nothing,
Mm-hmm.
because you really don't know anything for sure.
Mm-hmm. So I think you should. No, you definitely should. Um, you should take things how they are. You should have your beliefs because you walk through life a certain way, and the best way to know something is through experience. And you should stay open minded to different subjects, because you could be closing yourself off, essentially. So you want to think of every possibility and think of it as a possibility, but not really put it deep down into your knowledge, into how you see things and what you know to be the truth, rather than, you know, not doing that. So,
Well said. Well said, Jared.
yeah. So, let me ask you something. What's uh what's something you're fearful of? So actually two things you're fearful of.
Okay.
So one that's actually tangible and physical,
Okay.
and then one that's more mental. And
Mm.
yeah,
Mm. Okay. Great question, Jared. Thanks for asking.
no problem.
It's amazing. It's a great question. One thing I'm fearful of physically, just I'll throw out there, spiders. I am scared of I'm scared of spiders. I'm not
I was
afraid.
going to guess bears.
I'm also scared of those. But I'm just giving one example of something that I'm scared of physically. I'll say spiders. And I'll tell you why. I'm scared of spiders because I've grown up pretty much my whole life with this stereotype of spiders as creepy, crawly, little scary things. And I've also watched movies with my family, like Eight Legged Freaks, which is a spider film of big giant spiders hunting people down and eating them, wrapping them in webs, and just using their um
Their legs?
little no, let's what are these called?
I don't know.
Fucking like fucking
Their fangs?
fangs. Oh, god damn it. Yeah, those fangs. Um so I've grown up with this, it's instilled in my identity, like that's what I associate spiders with.
Mm-hmm.
And in reality, I'm a big 6 foot ogre man, and it's a tiny little insect that I'm just like I've made I gave it an identity.
You gave it power over your
I
life.
gave it power. I give it power.
Such a little creature.
Because the reality is, it's just a little creature that is experiencing what it's experiencing with its little senses, its little eyeballs going through life, and its only thing on its mind is like its next meal, making a web, and he probably looks at me and he's like, "Oh shit," like that's the reality about it. It's not gonna hurt me, like some will, but for the most part, the spiders I've been dealing with, they're just like little guys that can't really hurt me at all, and I gave them a stigma, gave them a dogma. So
Usually little daddy long necks. I mean, little daddy long legs.
yeah, daddy long neck. I like that little implementation. I can't talk today, Jared. So just
That's all right, man. That's
bear
all
with
right.
me. Is it?
We good. Yeah, yeah.
Shout out to Fox. I guess we'll do that too, just so we remember.
Okay, yeah.
He's a guy, I guess. He's a good guy.
He's a guy.
Love you,
Or
Fox.
is he?
I don't know. Deep down, I don't know. That's the labels we give people.
Hmm.
We created that. Anyway, something that I fear mentally, I would say, Jared, is success. Did you expect me to say that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, you're psychic. Anyway, why do I fear success? Is that what you might be asking?
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Because I I feel like a lot of people fear success. And I feel like fearing success is more detrimental and common than fear of failure. And I'll tell you why. All right. So there's a couple ways that people fear success. Some people might have imposter syndrome, where they feel deep down in their root of the core of their identity they don't deserve success. Why? I don't know. But deep down, some people could be telling themselves, like, I don't really deserve this success. I haven't been putting a lot of work in. I don't know if I can change for it. My identity doesn't associate with us being a successful person. All these like root, like core ideals come out. And some might just think like they have a fear of success because once they get it, they might not be able to hold on to it, or they'll lose it. It won't be stable, or just it's just hard to change. It's hard to change your identity if you haven't been a successful person your whole life, and then you know becoming a successful person, like you're taking steps to become a successful person, but you're not getting that success. It's because you have to open up your mind to allow yourself to be a successful person, envision yourself, see yourself as a successful person.
Hmm.
So I feel that for me personally, and I'll tell a personal like experience. I feel like I'm slowly and surely making myself aware of those deep rooted values that I have that are bad for me and not letting me be successful. Because throughout my whole life, I've been such a last minute person, and I feel like it's come from some of my parents. No, like bad talk about my parents, but there's some qualities of my parents that they did stuff last minute, so it kind of trickled down to me, my DNA. Like I'd put stuff off last minute all the time. Back in high school, like an essay had to be done. I got 3 weeks to write it. The last 2 days, I'm working on it, and it's just because I let an I let an event come. Something happened where it put pressure on me to actually take action instead of just taking action during unpressured times and peaceful times. I let the pressure build, and then boom, now I'm taking action. So I feel like that lazy habit, that laziness inside of me is so deeply rooted that I could be taking more action with the podcast that we're providing these good people listening.
Hmm.
And I have a fear of, I guess, success in that matter because I'm sometimes lazy about the podcast. Sometimes I put off editing it, or I'm not working every day. And a successful person would be. I associate a successful person with doing something every day
Hmm.
to further increase the productivity and success of whatever it may be. In this case, the Wanna Be Mindful podcast. I catch myself having these lazy habits, and you might be asking why. Why are you being lazy? Boom, and then it trickles down to like I don't know, but I do know it's because I have a fear of changing. I have a fear of changing my identity to being a successful person because I've really never been like a successful person in the way that I'm trying to head towards. And so, step one, folks, step one is admitting. Step one is making yourself aware of the problem. Because first, you have to find the problem before you can throw a solution at it.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that's my answer, Jared. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Step one, we put you in rehab and you go through step one.
That's
But
right.
wait, what was the question you asked?
I was just wondering, like, what are your thoughts on success and fear of success? So that kind of makes sense. Like,
Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like it's easy to think of failure. That's what most people think of initially. They think of the worst possible situation that could happen, and that could be a habit as well. That is a habit of thinking of worst possible scenarios. And so the thought of success, people don't allow themselves to even think about it because they think that the way things are right now is how it's going to be. They think that it's so far off that it's not even a possibility. Like they fear the change of it, and they fear the different, all the different things that come with it.
When the
So,
reality is, it's not that far off.
mhm,
It could be one little step away from being successful. That's what
mhm,
people don't understand. That's the reality. The reality is you could be one book away, one mindful podcast away,
mhm,
one workout gym session away, one helpful thing away from achieving your dreams. Like
mhm,
that is just the reality
mhm.
because that one thing you do, that one action you take could catapult you into something.
Yeah, yeah, that one shift of one identity, of instead of being a negative person, you're a positive person. You can make that one shift, and it could entirely change the trajectory of your life.
Exactly. Wow. Well said.
Thank you. That was also very well said because people don't think about it. People don't think about the fear of success. They think about the fear of failure and how worst case scenarios, and they don't want it to happen. They don't want the worst case scenarios to happen. And they're not even thinking about what could happen, what could potentially be theirs and come into their lives and have that mansion or have that supercar, have whatever it is they want. So
That's why
that's cool.
envisioning success, envisioning it is so important
Hmm.
instead of envisioning failure. And I feel like fear of success is worse than fear of failure because at least when you have fear of failure, you can at least make some progress because you just might not take as many risks or, it's still honestly, you're blocking yourself from that road to success. But fear of success, it's a 0% chance that you're going to be successful. Like
Hmm.
it's a 0% chance. It's impossible.
Yeah, if you don't even allow yourself to think about it, then it's not going to happen. And it's
Exactly.
yeah, you never work towards a certain something. It's never going to happen.
And if you aren't willing to change your identity to align with being a successful person or successful at whatever you're doing, forget about it then. You done goofed.
You done goofed up, and there you go. You're an old man, and
Fix
you're
yourself.
like, oh my gosh, I didn't think of creating a successful mountain of a life. I just thought about all the crappy parts, and now you're an old man and you've crapped your pants,
You're
and
spitting
that's your life now.
you're spitting facts. You're spitting some crazy facts right now.
Appreciate that.
That's our goal on the Want to Be Mindful podcast is to help folks realize that one day you will be an old man. And what are you going to be thinking about when you're that old man and you can't do
Hmm.
the things you can do right now?
Hmm. Were you challenging yourselves, challenging your identities, and how how you see the world? You could be wrong. You're not going out there and learning all the different nuances. No, you're just sticking to the status quo, and you're just doing what's comfortable to you. You're not challenging yourself and your beliefs. You just think you're right, and that can be a dangerous thing to do. Just constantly telling other people that they're wrong, but not really looking into yourself and thinking that you could be wrong. And
Listen, were you actually living or were you living your whole life just reacting to life?
hmm
That's a question you should ask now. And that's why being in the present moment is so important
hmm
because just slowing down time, just trying to slow down time in anything you're doing, whatever it is, no matter if it's tedious, boring, or it's the best time of your life, trying to slow down time is what makes your life like makes you come alive, makes you actually like you're living your life. You're because it's so short, it's gonna go by in a blink.
hmm
Like it's so short. So if you can make that shift to slow down time and ask yourself like or tell you just remind yourself like how short life really is
hmm
and like what matters. I mean, you're going to be a more happier person by
hmm
being in that present moment instead of living in the past or thinking about the future and being anxious. Take this moment. And it's like I'm enjoying myself right now just talking on this podcast with Jared. Like
yes, sir.
let's take it slow, baby. Let's give this value out. Let's give this information out. And I'm not going to regret a thing
Okay,
talking about
yeah.
this.
Yeah, and it's like you don't want more fear into your life. You should be trying to eliminate fear because at the end of the day, does it really benefit you? Some parts for survival, yes, of course. You don't want to jump off that cliff immediately and, just think that it's a good thing. But
But you should know that you're afraid of that cliff because your mind constructed that fear. Because
and you can use fear as a resource, and you can use it, yeah, for survival, but use it as a resource and know what to go towards too. Because if you're fearful for something, then you can look at the true nature of it, and you can look deep down and to see why you're fearful of it. You can tell somebody's values and principles and how they live based off their fears. They're going to do things to avoid it. And people that attack their fears head on are going to be the type of people that actually learn and grow and understand themselves. And so go towards the fear, like don't hold back from it. Just go about your day, learn from it, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but that's all the parts of growing yourself as a human being. You're going to get uncomfortable, you're going to be fearful, and just know it's deeply rooted into you. And so of course it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's about attacking it head on.
yeah, a lot of times on this podcast we talk a lot of things we talk about have to do with identity and your values. Like real self-development, real change starts by looking at your identity and what you associate things with, what you associate fear with, and all these attributes. If you want to make a change consciously, you tell yourself, like, yeah, I would like to change, then you have the tools to do it. It starts at chipping away at your identity, finding the root, finding the really the deep bottom of that root, and making that change.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else we should cover on fear?
No, we've covered pretty good, I think. I mean, we could always do better. We can
Always
always
do
do
better.
better. Put in the comments of things about we could do better for the podcast.
Please. That would be great. I would love to read that.
And put what you're fearful of too, if you want to.
Yeah, we'll have that as a poll too on the Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify,
And don't do the basic fears, okay? Like do something deeply rooted to you,
I like that.
something that is unique to you. And yeah, everybody has different fears that are deeply rooted into their minds.
And if you're listening to this on Spotify, if you can go ahead and give us that 5-star rating, that would really help out the podcast. And if you're listening on YouTube, go ahead and like the video, and why not subscribe, because we're going to post every week. And
Every week, we're not going away. We're staying.
hell yeah. And we appreciate you guys so much. And we just want to help people out, and we want to help others because it feels good.
Mm-hmm. You can understand yourself by understanding your fears. This is the Want to Be Mindful podcast.
Stay mindful. So you think that one's better?
Yeah, I think it's better.